Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, as we are under the lights at Weedsport Speedway. It plays host to race number 13 of the third season of the TNR Master Millwright Big Block Series. Penultimate race on the season. Pretty much going to set up our stage for the championship week next week at the Charlotte Dirt Track as we prepare for our first heat of the night. Seth Cole alongside of Anthony McCurry. And Anthony, we've had some interesting trends during the course of this year. It was James Boniface and Bobby Trapper kind of duking it out blow for blow at the beginning, but so far 3 weeks, 3 different winners with Wesley Cannon, Zarro, and Loic Bernier. What trend do we continue on here coming down the home stretch? Do those guys like Boniface and Trapper, do they feel the urgency to go to victory lane here to either solidify or keep themselves in the championship, or do those new guys find victory lane for the first time once again for the 4th week in a row?
So at this stage in the season, it's definitely going to be James Boniface that is the most critical driver right now. He comes into this race 34 points back from the leader, Bobby Trapper. If he wants a shot, or an even better shot at taking the championship next week, then he's going to have a great run tonight. His green flag goes out at our first heat. But another driver coming into this race is going to be John Cannon Zarro. That definitely needs to have something good happen to him tonight if he wants to even stay in the conversation for the championship, because he comes in a total of 40 points back, almost mathematically ineligible for the championship. But if he has a good enough run tonight, he could stay in it, but just by the skin of his teeth. And the new drivers, like you mentioned, definitely going to play a factor, as I believe that we have a total of 2 to 3 of them in the field that are non-championship running drivers right now, but definitely going to throw in a monkey wrench into these top 3.
Of course, last week we saw at Knoxville, Loic Bernier burst onto the scene. We knew he was fast based off of his practice runs the week before at USA International, though he didn't take part in that main event, but he was dominant once he got to the front at Knoxville, picked up his first career victory, and he's taken it to Jason Freeman here for the 2nd position. Tony Lucarelli, who started on point, still leads the way, although might have caught a little bit of the curbing there. The left front coming up in the air as James Boniface enters into this mix. Zane Burke, the other driver in this heat race, and I have to wonder for some of the guys like Trapper and Boniface, what is the mentality? Oh, we got a car hit the wall hard. Is that Freeman?
Yeah, that'll be Jason Freeman hitting the inside retaining wall. The yellow's going to come out for that, so we'll get a brief period of a little bit of calm, but that was a intense crash that happened with Jason Freeman. I think he just got too low to the racetrack and nosed it into the retaining wall. Bunch of damage.
Jersey barriers there on the inside of turns 1 over to the middle of 1 and 2, and then just off of turn number 4.
I think get too low in the ground. That's something that at Weedsport, oh yeah, I see what happened. He simply got too low and rode up the barrier. But something that we're going to have to pay attention here is the inside retaining walls are, they're quite in the way. They come out pretty far onto the racing surface, and if you're going in and trying to cut into the corner, then because of how abrupt they are, it could catch some of these drivers out.
I'm trying to remember if I think this happened last season where a driver was about to pick up a heat victory coming off of turn 4 and actually ran too low and kind of ramped off of that concrete barrier coming to the checkered flag. So you're right. It kind of takes these drivers by surprise. I mean, most of the tracks you think about that we've been to in the past couple of weeks, Kokomo, USA International, Knoxville, you can run down there as close as you want from the dirt to grass transition without really anything obstructing you. Not the case here tonight at Weedsport.
Absolutely not. And pay attention to these drivers tonight. And that's a good example of, I think they're going to be looking at Freeman's case and just hoping that it doesn't happen to them in the main event or even in their heat races. But we're going to line them up again. Lucarelli, Bernier, Boniface, Burke, and Freeman with a little bit of damage on the front end of his car will have to soldier on, but we're very close to the end of Heat 1. And these laps tick by extremely quick at this racetrack. One of the fastest laps that we'll run all season, and it comes towards the end of the season. So these drivers are not going to have a lot of time once we get to the main event if they want to make some moves.
5 laps to go. Again, the caution laps do not count here in this series in either the heats or in the main event, as Loic Bernier going to take it to the inside of Tony Lucarelli for the top position. And this was what I was going to ask before Freeman ran into his trouble. We know that Bernier is fast. He proved it in the last 2 weeks. How much pressure does that put on drivers like James Boniface and Bobby Trapper in terms of them trying to pick up victories, get themselves heat points? I mean, especially here in the case of the 213 being in the same heat as the 74.
In this case now, what it really means is that Trapper doesn't have to necessarily win the race anymore if he wants to hold on to the championship. These guys that are in a critical spot are definitely the ones that are trying to run down Bobby Trapper in the championship in order to stay in it. So I think if you're Trapper, if you're content with a second place, you don't have to win the race at this stage if you want to win the championship. As Bernier takes the final lap in Heat 1, he's going to come through turn 3 and 4. Dominant at the end, and he'll take the checkered flag in Heat 1. Starting on the back of the grid for our main event, but that 74 is going to be a lightning bolt.
So, second place for James Boniface. That's going to be 4 bonus points he'll get for his finishing position in this heat. Now the ball is in the court of one Bobby Trapper. How is he going to counter the runner-up finish by James Boniface here in heat number 2? He will start from the second position alongside of Brian Rubel. You mentioned about a new face in the field, RJ Packer. In the 406, going to be rolling off from third alongside of John Canonzaro, and fifth place is going to be Bobby Puckett. One thing that I'm noticing here tonight, Anthony, is the car count. 10 drivers in total scheduled to take the green. With it being so few drivers preparing for our upcoming main event, the tough luck we saw Canonzaro have last week at Knoxville, does this knock him out of championship contention, or does he still have a lifeline?
If he does have a lifeline, it's extremely close, but basically what has to happen is both Bobby Trapper and James Boniface have to finish 9th and 10th respectively and have Trapper finish in the 10th place position. At this stage, that would put Canonzaro within striking distance when we get to Charlotte, but anything else, I think that this might be it for Canonzaro. I don't think he's effectively in the championship anymore, which is just a shame because he had all the hopeful luck going into it, and then last week he just ran into some horrible luck, finished outside the top 5 and fell down the order. James Boniface then did move up into the second place position, so it's heartbreaking for Canonzaro, but if he can have the stars align tonight, it's not impossible with how tight the track is and how many cars we have on it, all things considered. Then there could be some interesting shenanigans happen, and some of these drivers, they might lock wheels, and you never know, we might end up with some pretty interesting scenarios.
2 laps here, since this track is 3/8 of a mile in total. And, I were chuckling before we came on the air here, went to Wikipedia, get some history about this racetrack. The gates opened for this track in 1955, but 5 years earlier, a guy by the name of Stanley Dudzinski carved a 1/3 mile oval in his berry patch to practice driving his race car. So it's incredible how some of these local short tracks, the history they've got behind them, how they came about, because it's maybe stories you don't necessarily think of when you see them under the professional lighting, these professional cars driving around this racetrack.
Humble beginnings for this racetrack, and now it's a penultimate race for the championship, and it can make or break some of these guys' championship hopefuls or these championship hopes. So fun to learn about track history. I recommend if you have a home track, then it's probably got an interesting story behind it. Bobby Trapper will be the lead of the race, and behind him will be Canonzaro. Now, this is important for Canonzaro. He needs to stay as close as he can to Bobby Trapper, and preferably have Bobby Trapper be as far away from him in the opposite direction as they are right now, because right at the moment, they are first, second, and Canonzaro would absolutely love for Trapper to hit the inside Jersey barrier and go into 5th place.
Awesome wheel spin at the initial start for Bobby Puckett. There you see him back in the 5th position. He was a guy I was maybe looking at to continue on our string of first-time winners. Had a 3rd place run last season here at Weedsport, but then again, he's going to have himself, if he stays where he is, he's going to have some pretty good starting track position in the upcoming 35-lapper, as we're used to seeing Canonzaro in the 3. He's in that bright yellow and black 74 here tonight. Currently running about half a second off the bumper of Bobby Trapper. And one thing I'm noticing here, Anthony, really different from what we've seen in the last 3 or 4 weeks. A lot of experimentation going on here with diamonding the corner or riding the corner wide. A lot of drivers running different lanes. It's kind of been when we watch the heat races as opposed to the main event, everybody just runs the same exact line in their heat races.
Yeah, they're trying to find out where they can run and try to figure out what they can do in the main event. Obviously, this track it looks like it's pretty one-lined, and you want to be as close to the inside line as possible with how tight the turns are, but we are seeing that Canonzaro running a middle line while his Trapper right down pinned against the apron and right against the Jersey barrier. Now, that's dangerous because that can happen, and that's going to give Canonzaro a shot to try and get to the lead. He's going to go to the inside, try to pick up the momentum. He's still there to the inside of the 69, and that's the dangers of running the extreme inside.
Yeah, we saw it right there on board with
Whoa!
Zarro. He saw it too, and now he gets forced into that area of the racetrack. His car goes hopping up into the air, and all that momentum lost. Trapper's going to scamper away. They took the white flag that time.
Around in turn 3, the final time, Trapper's going to come around, and after his bobble, he's going to win Heat 2, have excellent points going into the main event. Not an excellent starting position, but still, you know, he could try and get through the field. We've seen him do it so many times this season. And 40 laps is going to be on the table for tonight's main event. So a quick 40 laps, I might add. We run about 15-second lap times. This race, 4 laps per minute. This race is going to go by extremely quick. These guys do not have a lot of time if they want to make moves.
Yeah, what was it, USA International, where we went caution-free in that race? I think we only ran about, 15 minutes? I think it was like 13 to 15 minutes in that race. So we'll see what's going to be the case here tonight. As you mentioned, they turn laps very quickly. And one thing that John Cannizzaro and James Boniface did not want to see happen moments ago, an extra 5 bonus points in the pocket of Bobby Trapper with that heat victory. Granted, he is going to be starting deep in the field, 9th place, but this was his strategy late in last year when he won the championship as well. Rack up those bonus points with those heat victories.
And he's going it again this season, and right now it's proving to be very effective as he will have a massive load of bonus points heading into the main event. Speaking of the main event, we'll get them lined up, and we'll tell you what your starting lineup will be. Brian Rubel will be on pole in the 44. Alongside him will be Zane Burke to his outside. Bobby Puckett, Jason Freeman, and RJ Packer will make up the top 5, and then the rest of the field. Tony Lucarelli, John Cannizzaro, James Boniface, and Bobby Trapper all starting 7th on through 9th place. All 3 of our championship protagonists at this stage in the season lined up right next to each other. That's going to cause some fireworks, especially because you can apparently use the jersey barrier as a defense mechanism. So have to see how they handle that tonight. And Loic Bernier will be starting at the tail of the field. He won his heat race. Trapper won his heat race. We invert the field. That's how we line up.
Looks like the entire outside row is going to move up a lane. Zane Burke dropping to the back. Looks like he's voluntarily EOLing himself for this upcoming race. So Rubel looks to drivers right now, sees Jason Freeman to the outside of him for the upcoming start. As you mentioned, 40 laps of racing here tonight. Caution laps will not count towards this event. Only green flag laps will count. And Bobby Trapper, in the 3 times we've been here, twice in Season 1, once in Season 2, is a 2-time winner, finished 2nd in the race he didn't win. Green flag is in the air. Rubel and Freeman leads into turn 1. We're almost 3 wide for the 5th position.
Well, the way they shake on the start of the race, trying to find some grip on the initial outset. Now they're already into turn 3. Side by side. Wow, look at the inside. Oh, then they hit the jersey right behind. I believe that was Lucarelli that got a little bit of it. Cannizzaro as well got a little piece of it. And now they're trying to figure out what they can do. Bobby Puckett, I think, got the worst of all of that as he was on the inside of the 3-wide situation, pinged off of the barrier, now trying to make his way to the inside of James Boniface, which has moved up. Bobby Trapper and John Cannizzaro in a battle for 5th place.
Cannizzaro got that curb, and it really hurt the handling of his machine. By the time he got to the start-finish line, way out of shape, opened up the door for Boniface to make a pass. Puckett looks to take advantage. Loic Bernier lining up there as well, all trying to take advantage of that bobble by the 74. And it's amazing with these dirt tracks because, you know, to the naked eye, they look so smooth. It looks like these cars are sliding around out there. That's not the case. We saw earlier with the onboard with John Cannizzaro, these things are bouncing around on this racetrack.
It is a extremely rough surface that they're racing on tonight. It does look like they're just gliding around the racetrack, but don't let that fool you. These guys are having to muscle these cars around right now. Oh, a little bit of contact with the wall for Bobby Trapper goes in. It looks like he's fine with that, but this has got to be one of the roughest racing surfaces I think we've had all season, and there's never a moment that you're not turning right. If you go on board with any of these drivers, they're going straight and to the right, and that's incredible because they're all turning left.
Bobby Puckett, Loic Bernier, this is for 6th. Oh, Bernier a little wide there. Caught the right rear of his machine to the outside wall, and it's going to be interesting. We're talking a lot about that concrete wall there off of turn 4. We're yet to really talk about the outside wall. We've seen that be a factor week after week. You know, we're not necessarily certain if you hit that wall if it's going to grab you and flip you up into the air like most other tracks have, or if you're going to just be able to go up there, rub it, and continue on. The case there for Bernier was he made contact with sheet metal rather than with tire rubber, and so he was able to continue on. Bobby Trapper on the hunt. He's trying to get into the podium. Tony Lucarelli trying to pinch him down. I think Trapper will complete the pass by the time they get to turn 1.
Trapper, oh, not quite. I think he got a little piece of the barrier and tries to get around now. Down the back straightaway. I don't think he's gotten quite clear yet. Oh, if the slightest bit of contact was made with Lucarelli, but now goes through to 69 into 3rd place. And something else that we have to consider as well is that we've been talking about the different lines that these drivers are experimenting with throughout their heat races, and now they're really getting into it with getting around in the main event. Well, oh goodness, Lucarelli turns in a little bit too much, gets the jersey barrier, and now here comes Boniface through. Whoa, contact with Boniface again. Now, this is critical because Boniface needs to stay within distance of Bobby Trapper if he wants to stay within contention for the championship, so doing what he needs to do. But we were talking about running the inside, running the middle line, but we've yet to see anybody in this race go up to the extreme outside line yet. Do you think that this track is even conducive for that kind of line? And if so, will we see it later in the race when all these cars, the trend is they all start to migrate towards the top of the racetrack? Do you think that we're going to see that happen tonight?
If you're asking about like running that line all the way through the corner, no, I don't think that that's going to be possible. The way that they send it into these corners, I think you might see it come into play in the center of the corner to be able to dime it. I think that's what Boniface is doing right now. Starts to the inside, goes up about 3 grooves through the center. Oh, we got a caution. It's Bobby Puckett. It's gone around apparently in turn number 3. Zane Burke might have gotten a piece of it also. That's going to bring out the yellow, but quickly going back to your question, I think you'll only see it when drivers are going to send it and try and dime in the corner. Nobody, I don't think, is going to run right up against the wall through the entirety of the turn.
So what happened here, I think someone tried it. To your point, Bobby Puckett, I think, was inadvertently trying to do it as he goes in low, diamonds it in, and just not enough space between himself and John Catanzaro, I don't think, and that's what caused them to make contact, and I think that Puckett got the worst out of all of that.
Well, we had ourselves a barrel roll. That was the debuting RJ Packer that went up and over.
Oh yeah, he gets a huge shot by Loic Bernier, who makes the shot as well. So all of these drivers, Bernier was the fast driver in his heat race, and he's struggled to get to the front in the main event. So it's interesting that he's having some struggles getting around these drivers. But yeah, RJ Packer, definitely a wild ride. He's gone back on track, as I think all of our drivers are back on the racing surface. So have to watch how they line up, as Jason Freeman will continue to be our leader. No one's been able to challenge him as of yet. The closest driver to him would have been Brian Rubel, but he got left in the dust, so to say, as it opened up to about a 2nd lead over the aforementioned Freeman. And now he's got even more problems to deal with, as this has brought Bobby Trapper within striking distance of the leader. So have to see on this restart what these drivers can do to mitigate the fact that we've got some very fast championship contenders behind, because don't look now, but James Boniface starting right outside of Bobby Trapper. This is going to be a wild turn 1.
Yeah, I want to quickly touch on something you brought up, expand on it a little bit. The fact that Loic Bernier was mired back outside the top 5 and not made his way up to the front. Took 15 laps for Bobby Trapper to get from the final row up to 3rd. Yeah, things very congested here at Weedsport. Not a lot of opportunity to be able to work your way quickly to the front like we've seen drivers do in the past couple of weeks. And I think that I've also been seeing here tonight as well, a lot of drivers really having to muscle their way for position. I've seen a lot more contact ensued to be able to pick up a position than we've really seen at some of the wider sweeping tracks in the past. And the caution's out again. It's Puckett and Burke once more, this time at the start-finish line.
And Puckett this time finds himself on his roof, on just past the start-finish line. And what happened here? It looks like...
Let's see if we get a good Samaritan. I think that in the past it's been Gleason who's been the one to flip him over. It looks like it's going to be... How about that? Oh no. Well...
Oh.
Oh, boy.
It was almost perfect.
RJ Packer did his best. I think Puckett went back into the throttle a little too soon. He wasn't completely around on all 4 wheels yet, and the thing flips back over, and he is to pit road. It's going to be day over for Bobby Puckett because he was on pit road after the last incident and already taken on his faster pair. But let's go back, see what happened off turn 4. And is it that concrete barrier again, possibly?
It would be the concrete barrier again, and this time it was a driver that just got pinched down too low and couldn't actually get out of the way, and that would have been the driver directly behind him. I believe that was our dear friend RJ. Actually, RJ was in front. The guy behind was
Zane Burke, I believe.
Zane Burke. Zane Burke gets pinched. Nowhere for anyone to go, and then Puckett was the one that got flipped over onto the start-finish straight and up and over again, and comes to rest just after the flagman stand.
A little bit of an interesting statistic here. We've been talking about James Boniface, John Cannon, Zarro trying to keep their championship hopes alive. Weedsport was not the penultimate race on the season last year. It was around the midway portion of the season. I believe it just started the second half of the schedule back in season 2. But the winner of that race was one Kenneth Drake, who in all rights was really the only competition that Bobby Trapper had for the championship last season. So if there's a little glimmer of hope for someone like Boniface or Cannonzaro, it might be the fact that this track has actually played into the favor of a driver that's running inside the podium of the point stands, but not necessarily as the points leader. We'll see what happens here as there's still 23 to go.
And Jason Freeman got an almighty start off the line and going into turn 1, got everybody clear by at least 2 car lengths. Behind him, Trapper battles with Rubel to the inside, or was battling with Rubel. It's not much of a battle anymore as he goes through. Oh, goodness gracious. I think that was Cannonzaro that got a piece of the inside wall, and it's the one in turn 4 particularly that these drivers are having the most struggles with. Down there, it doesn't actually start. There's a little bit of a gap between turn 3 and turn 4, and the drivers are trying to get as much advantage as they possibly can, and they just miss time. Where it is!
Trapper gets turned by Brian Rubel in front of the field. Luke Gorelli and Boniface collected.
And chaos ensues as Trapper finds himself backwards on the racetrack. Looks like that Lucarelli's stuck in the infield. RJ Packer's gotten away from it now, but this is huge for the championship.
Especially at the midway point. We've already talked about how even the fast drivers have had difficulty here tonight in working their way up to the field and working their way up there quickly. This puts James Boniface and Bobby Trapper way back in traffic now, and this was a battle gone wrong for second place.
It looks like it just slid in too quickly. It was for Rubel. It didn't quite get it slowed down in enough time, and not to discredit, but Trapper did take a pretty aggressive line on the way in and tried to slow down much quicker than the guys behind him, and just got bumped in the rear end and spun around into turn 1, and then everyone piled in, couldn't find a way in line. And at least the good news for Trapper is he did not dig into the dirt and flip over. That might have been night over if he had done that, but still gets back on the racetrack. We'll be starting in the 7th place for this restart, I believe. It might actually be further up the field as James Boniface and Brian Rubel both come out of the pit lane with repairs, and this is going to set them at the tail end of the field. This isn't ideal for either of them either.
Brian Rubel and James Boniface going to take on their faster pair at this point in time. Again, the fortunate thing that we don't count the caution lap, so everybody that comes to pit lane under yellow is able to get back out and not lose a lap as a result. And Bobby Trapper, even though he's not going to be all that thrilled that he got spun from the second spot, the good news for him is really nobody else made contact with him. It was a bit of a harmless spin with no repercussions of having to come to pit road. Boniface, Rubel, they had to come to pit lane to get some damage repaired, as did RJ Packer. So Trapper still has that faster pair to fall back on should he need it in the second half of this race.
Well, this puts Jason Freeman still in the lead, but it also puts Luc Bernier up in the second place as he's going to try to run around the outside as we go back to green with 20 laps to go. Oh, a little bit of contact, almost lifted the front end of the 74.
Caution. I'm not sure who for. Was it Zane Burke? He's already back on pit lane.
Might have been RJ Packer. Packer running all by himself.
No,
they threw the yellow out for Packer. He was coming onto the racetrack about the same time all the other cars were going to green.
So safety hazard there. Also had Zane Burke there on the initial start, went up and, oh, actually, you know, I think it might have been Zane Burke. Way wide there going into turn 1, comes to a stop there. So it might have been for both, a combination of both possibly.
It was Zane Burke.
And what are the uniqueness is about this particular track of Weedsport? You talk about pit road. When you come off of pit lane, there's a huge elevation change. from coming out of pit road onto what is the exit of turn number 4. And you come out fast enough, the car can actually catch some air. It's almost like riding a BMX bike down a hill. It takes a little while for those tires to actually land back onto the racing surface heading for the start-finish line. So imagine you're coming through 3 and 4 and all of a sudden a car jumps out from the right side of your line of your point of view. That can be a little bit hard stopping.
Especially if you're trying to battle for position on the outside line and all of a sudden you've got a traffic cone in the middle of the racetrack. There's another thing about these cars that makes them so fun and also a bit terrifying to drive if you're one of the drivers is that because they're so light and so powerful. We've seen it on restarts and starts of the race. You see them get into the throttle, they kind of leap into the air and almost dig in and try to find some grip, and once they get going, they finally are able to slide around and do what they do best. But that initial start, especially when coming off of an elevation change, they run these suspensions surprisingly stiff considering that they're racing on dirt, and they are not made to be taking bumps at any rate of speed as they bounce up pretty significantly. So definitely scary when making the transition onto the race surface. But Freeman, Bernier, and Cannon-Zarro, your top 3. But when we go back to green, it's going to be the Freeman and Bernier show. If we can get a green flag lap in, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the 74 try to rim ride around to get the lead of the race.
Almost up to the outside wall there was Bernier through 1 and 2. We'll see if he can get back to the throttle here. Trapper way up there as well, trying to get around Cannon-Zarro for 3rd. Completes the pass and now tries to force his way to the outside of Freeman for 2nd place as Bernier goes to the point. 8 drivers on the lead lap of 9 drivers out there. Zane Burke took his car back to the garage area after the last caution.
Comes Trapper to the inside, trying to get around Freeman, but not close enough to make the move yet. Behind him, he's got Boniface and Cannon-Zarro. Whoa! And Freeman pounds the outside wall, and that's going to open the door for all 3 of them to go through. Freeman into 5th, now battling for 2nd place between Trapper, Cannon-Zarro, and Boniface.
Pretty incredible that both Trapper and Cannon-Zarro were able to get low enough to pass Bobby, or to Jason Freeman, that is. I thought more than likely they were going to stack him behind him. Caution's out. RJ Packer has run into an issue. Not sure where that was, as he has already teleported his machine back to pit road. 5th caution of the night with 15 laps to go.
And this was, I think, just a product of the track being so tight that it ends up getting clobbered up into turn 1, and they get a little bit sideways, and RJ Packer just gets sent straight up into the outside wall. It actually didn't look like he even tried to slow. He did try to slow down, but not enough distance to slow down before hitting the outside wall and flipping over.
And he got elbowed up the track there as he was side by side with Tony Lucarelli going into that corner. And I guess welcome to the TNR Master Millwright Series in your debut. 2nd time that the 406 has gone for a tumble here tonight at Weedsport. This one might possibly take him out of this race, as he was already a faster pair in the hole prior to that incident over in turn 1.
Well, now we know what happens when you hit the points and kind of ride the season out with a good 4th place. He put up a valiant effort this season as well. He's trying to cap it off with a potential top 3 here tonight as we go back to green. And everyone, we thought it was going to happen, but they're starting to diamond it up into that outside line as the race goes on.
They definitely are. There you see Trapper up on the high side. Cannon-Zarro gonna follow him. Boniface. Oh, big hit! Tony Lucarelli, Jason Freeman on the front straightaway. Big contact for the 41 into the outside wall, and the caution's going to fly once again.
And looks like Freeman this time got too low and tried to correct it out of the exit of turn 4, and then just pile drives into Tony Lucarelli, and then in turn Lucarelli pile drives the outside retaining wall. Has already towed his car to the pit lane, and I don't think he's going to come back out as he's retired from the race.
RJ Packer also back in the garage area after his flip over in 1 and 2, so they join Zane Burke. And we're going to go on board here with Jason Freeman, because I think one thing I've been noticing over in turn 4 especially, I think there's a bit of a dip down, like a bit of a divot there right next to that concrete barrier, and that's why we're seeing a lot of these cars, the front ends, pop up into the air and really hurt them in terms of setting up for getting onto the front straightaway and preparing themselves for turn number 1.
Yeah, there's something in there that's definitely causing these drivers to go in. Also, what it is also is the wall on the inside of turn 3 opens up, and you think that you can just pile it in and try to stick it as low as you want to on the inside, but then another wall forms in turn 4, so it kind of catches these drivers out where they try to arc it in and get the maximum amount of run out, and then all of a sudden their left wheel might be close enough to the barrier that they need to correct it. And that's, I think, what happened to Jason Freeman. I think he just arced it in too quickly, not knowing or not seeing that the wall was coming up really quickly.
I think another thing it could be too here, because I just remembered a camera angle that we had when these drivers were in practice. I noticed it, much like Kokomo that we were at a few weeks ago. We saw where the apron kind of starts, there's a bit of counter banking from the banking to the racetrack. And of course, you've got to have that banking there for the concrete barrier to sit on. I'm almost wondering if they might be hitting that with their left front as well, like a bit of banking that slopes up.
It could, and that would upset the balance enough that they would be arced towards the wall. And with the way that the wall jets out from the inside, it does cut off a little bit of a racing line to the inside, because there is room to, if it wasn't there, that you could race on it. But
oh no, there we go. He saved it. Freeman and Puckett, but I saw the contact made and I thought the 40 was going around, but that split the field up for sure.
Definitely did. Now we got a big gap back to Jason Freeman and Brian Rubel. The only two running back here is Bobby Puckett still on pit road. So it's basically a fight between these four now. It's Bernier. And we talked about it at the top of the program where we were wondering, well, what are the effects that someone like Loic Bernier was going to have on this championship fight? Well, Bobby Trapper, in my mind at least, would undoubtedly be the leader at this stage, but right now he's battling with that 74 to try and take the lead of the race as Trapper, Cannonzaro, and Boniface continue to fight it out amongst themselves for second place, and Trapper and Boniface right now, or make that Cannonzaro and Boniface, trying to battle it out for third place as Trapper sends it up the inside.
All nose to tail, second, third, and fourth drivers battling for the championship. You gotta wonder if Loic Bernier even exists in their world right now, if they're even paying attention to him, as he leads us to 10 to go now, 9 to go here at Weedsport. Trapper looked to put the pressure on Bernier. Now he has slipped back into the clutches of Boniface and John Cannonzaro. You talked about it. For Cannonzaro to stay in the hunt for the championship, Boniface and Trapper need to have bad runs. For Boniface to have a shot, Trapper needs to have a bad run. They're all together here inside of the top 5, so now what's the strategy if you're Boniface or Cannonzaro with a limited number of laps left?
If you're Boniface, get in front of Bobby Trapper at any cost, and that means if you got to use the chrome horn, you might as well try to figure out how to use it. We saw it earlier in the heat races that you can use the inside barrier as a blockade as well, because we can pinch drivers to the inside and have them check up and lose momentum. With the way that the field is spread out right now, it's very easily that if you try to have a challenge to the inside that you could do it. Boniface sends it up the inside, tries to get alongside. This is critical for him. For Cannonzaro, he hopes that these two end up colliding with each other and going to the back of the field. It's only going to get them into 5th and 6th at this stage, as we have 4 retirees of the event. But it's better than nothing if you're Cannonzaro in this stage. And I'll throw another one in. If you're Bobby Trapper, then you just need to finish in front of both of them, or even just behind them, and you probably got this championship more than done and dusted going into Charlotte.
Yeah, Bobby Trapper in the last 2 seasons has headed into the season finale, already crowned the champion. Just need to make it official and take the checkered flag. He can do the same here tonight if he finishes in second place ahead of Boniface and Cannonzaro. Loic Bernier, though, looking to do something for the first time in his career, and that's pick up a heat victory and an overall main event victory. He won a heat race a couple of weeks ago at USA. He won the main event last week at Knoxville, but he's not done both in the same week. He is now 2 laps away from being able to do that.
And he's coming through into turn 1. No one has been able to challenge him ever since he got to the lead. And Jason Freeman was the one that was supposed to be challenging him, but then he had hardships. And we have a championship battle behind them going on. The white flag comes out for Loic Bernier into turn 1 for the final time. And I think that we can write this one as a history book. You gotta think, what happens if Bernier started race 1 of the season?
Absolutely. Bernier is about to become the 3rd multi-time winner in the season. He'll take the checkered flag here tonight at Weedsport. That multi-time win for him joins him with James Boniface and Bobby Trapper, the 2 guys who have been in the hunt for the championship all season long. And yeah, leaves you with that question of what if he had run the entirety of the season. I'll tell you what, though, if he runs full-time next year, this is a guy we're going to be talking about with the word championship in the same sentence quite a bit, I think.
And speaking of championship, James Boniface did finish in second place over Bobby Trapper. This is critical for him. Now he has a bit of a leg up. It's not a lot when you in the grand scheme of things, but it's enough that I think it would keep him within championship contention for next week. And unfortunately, I think with the way that John Cannizzaro finishes and everyone else finishes, that this might write him out of the championship hunt heading into Charlotte. But Boniface, he did what he had to do. We'll have to see if Bobby Trapper will be able to maintain his points lead, or will Boniface somehow get lucky next week and have some good fortune fly his way, and Bobby Trapper finishing outside the top 10.
Well, in my super rough calculations here, it looks like with Boniface finishing second in his heat race and Bobby Trapper winning his, that gives the 1 point advantage to Trapper before they even took the green flag for the main event. For race points, second place gets paid out 45 points, and third place gets paid out 43 points. That's 2 points that James Boniface captured there. He only netted 1 point over Bobby Trapper by my calculations here tonight, which means that heading into next week, it'd be 33 points between Trapper and James Boniface. And oh, wow. It seemed kind of possible here tonight, but with only one race left, I'm not so certain. But let's also throw the other monkey wrench into the mix here in the fact that next week at Charlotte, it is double points.
It is double points, and that also means double heartache if you finish poorly, and this championship is not over yet. We'll have to wait and find out what happens next week. But tonight, we have a winner to crown, and the first time again that he has won a race in the heat and then won a race in the main event in the same race in this league, and that would be Loic Bernier. He will take the lead of the race, or he'll take the win tonight. James Boniface again will take second place. Bobby Trapper will finish in a third place position. Cannizzaro will net fourth place today. Jason Freeman, unfortunate for him, he led most of the race in the first half and now will be in the fifth place position. Brian Rubel, Tony Lucarelli, Bobby Puckett, RJ Packer, and Zane Burke to finish out the field. Only 6 drivers finished tonight. Lucarelli on down through Burke were the drivers who found themselves outside of the finish or outside of the racetrack during the finish.
So Loic Bernier, a back-to-back winner. Bobby Trapper was a back-to-back winner in the first 2 races on the season. Of course, James Boniface won 4 races in a row. So we'll see if Loic Bernier can go a perfect 3 for 3 when we head to the season finale next week at the dirt track of Charlotte. But let's go down and see if we could talk with a few of our podium finishers here tonight. And obviously a guy that's got to be thinking about those double points next week. Can he solidify it for his 3rd straight championship? Let's talk with tonight's 3rd place running, Bobby Trapper. Hey, Bobby, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Wow. We saw a lot of pushing and shoving here tonight, maybe a lot more than we've seen in the last couple of weeks, almost literally having to muscle your way through for position. You picked up that heat victory here tonight, but had to start deep in the field. Took you a while to get up to the front, but just how difficult was it here tonight in terms of traffic? Because it kind of seemed like everybody, at least for the early portion, wanted that inside line. There wasn't a whole lot of room to maneuver.
Yeah, I figured after I got the win there in the heat and I'd be starting in the back that I just had to be patient, try to take my time and just let people make their mistakes and only put the car in spots where there was open lanes. Didn't want to really get myself jingled up too much, and unfortunately got taken out a little bit mid-race up the front. But overall, I think a lot of good tight racing with everyone.
You came into this race as the points leader. You're still going to leave as the points leader, and the points battle going into our final race has definitely got you in favor with a 32-point lead going into our final race. What are your hopes for the final race, and do you think that you can win this championship with how big your lead is?
Yeah, I haven't really looked too hard at the points, but I'm just going to do the same thing, go out, try and finish as good as I could, hopefully find a little more speed, and be able to compete a little better with Loic and James. They're definitely 2 really fast guys.
Obviously a very interesting venue for the season finale, the dirt track at Charlotte, but you've been able to prove that doesn't matter what type of a dirt track it is, you're always going to be up there towards the front. So, you talk about the fact of doing what you have to do. Is that a go out there and try and win mentality, or is that just try and finish ahead of the rest of your competitors to solidify this thing?
And I think with the longer distance 40-lap features, my mentality every time is just trying to keep it clean in the beginning, and usually by the end, the cream will rise to the top, and see what I have at that point. When the field gets a little more stretched out, I'll do the same next week and see where we land.
All right. Well, congratulations on the good run here tonight. Certainly giving yourself a really good shot to be a perfect 3 for 3 in championships here in the TNR Master Millwright Big Block Series. Bobby, we're now going to turn the mic over to you for some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Yeah, I just got to thank TNR and Master Millwright for running the whole Big Block series. You guys, FRN for broadcasting, and everyone that puts the series on, Brian, Jason, Garrett, and really like running with everyone here. Hopefully, they could take some momentum into the next season and get some more guys into it.
That's Bobby Trapper. He'll look to seal the deal when we head into the season finale next week. Best of luck there, Bobby, and congrats once again on a good run here tonight at Weedsport.
Thanks, guys.
All right, looks like we do not have our second place finisher, James Boniface, available, so let's go directly down to Victory Lane and talk with Mr. Two-time winner now, Loic Bernier. Look, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yo, what's up, boys?
Well, man, I'll tell you what. This 74 car last a couple of weeks. It has been fast. It's been able to get to the front and stay at the front. But here tonight, maybe a little bit more challenging it looked like than last week. Not nearly as spacious, and you had to do it from the back of the pack after that heat victory. So it looked difficult from up here. How difficult was it from inside the seat of that 74 car?
That was one of the hardest races I ever run. Like, you started at the back, and you don't want to touch nobody. I wrecked myself at like the first 10 laps, and I don't want to pit because I got like in 7, maybe I don't remember, and I just don't want to lose this spot.
Now, you definitely had a fast car tonight. You won your heat race, and then you won the main event race. What was the most challenging part of this racetrack? And it looked like, for us anyway, it was getting through traffic, because this track was definitely a tight one to navigate around in the with the amount of cars we had on track.
Yeah, we needed to find the good lane to run the car, and when you figure it out, we just go in front, never look back, and we win.
Well, Loic, we talked about the fact that here tonight you do something for the first time this season, picking up a heat victory and a main event victory here at Weedsport. 2 in a row so far. Can we make it 3 in a row in the season finale next week at Charlotte?
Oh yeah, we're gonna try. We're gonna be there for sure.
Well, congratulations on a great performance here tonight. No doubt about it. Since you've made your debut, you've kind of caught fire here, made it very interesting in the closing stages, along with those guys that are battling for the championship. Congratulations on your victory tonight, and now we'll give you the opportunity for some Victory Lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
I want to say thanks to all my sponsor, Ducharme Speed, Alsa Speed, Bueno Body Shop, and you boys for the broadcast. Very appreciated, and we'll see you next week.
That's Loic Bernier. He gets to celebrate here tonight at Weedsport. Second win in a row here in the TNR Master Millwright Big Block Series. Congratulations once again, and best of luck trying to close it out with a three-peat here in the upcoming season finale.
Thank you, boys. Have a good night.
So we've already talked about it. Double points next week at Charlotte. Second time that racetrack is going to be the season finale where a champion is going to be crowned. But it's interesting in the case of one Bobby Trapper because he's been on opposite sides of the coin in the last 2 seasons. Last year, he was 101 points over Kenneth Drake heading into the season finale. The championship pretty much all but decided. But when we went to Weedsport, I believe it was, for the season finale in season 1, he was 14 points back heading into that race. So he's been on the chasing and the defending side of that championship battle. Here this week, though, it might be a little bit different because he doesn't have necessarily a huge points gap, but he's got enough of a points gap that he just basically has to go out there and maintain.
Absolutely. Right now for Bobby Trapper, all he has to do is finish in front, or even he can afford a few positions behind James Boniface. But the way that he's been running as of late, and the way that he's had, or just all season, he's been consistently in the top 5. I think it's going to be a hard challenge and a hard ask for James Boniface to try and figure out a way to get Bobby Trapper to finish outside of the top 5. Now that is, bearing that we might have some, late race shenanigans. The track is wide enough that you can split them 3 wide at Charlotte, but It's going to be coming down to whether or not James Boniface can make up the deficit in our heat and main event race.
It's interesting because, a lot of people might be wondering, well, how does the double points come into play? Well, just to kind of give you an example, let's say that either John Cannon Zarro or James Boniface go to victory lane next week, not counting the bonus points from the heat races prior. That's 100 points that is paid out to the race winner. Bobby Trapper, about 32, 33 points based on our calculations is what the advantages he'll have heading into next week. He can lose all of that if he finishes outside of the top 7. That is a possibility depending on the number of drivers that show up next week. So it's one of those cases where it's looking like it's Bobby Trapper's championship to lose, but you can't take anything for granted.
Absolutely not. James Boniface is a great driver. He's gotten himself into this position basically by being consistent all season long. And let's not forget also that James Boniface has come into this season, or at the end of this season now, with the most wins on the season, a total of 5 heading into our final race. When you compare that to Bobby Trapper's 3, it's incredible how much consistency the Trappers had all season long. But what James Boniface has got to do, just more of what he's been doing. And unfortunately, we are going to lose one driver as a result of tonight's running order. John Cannon Zarro, it is possible, but it's a long shot, and to say the least, a long shot for our 3rd place driver tonight, or our 4th place driver tonight, but our 3rd in the standings driver tonight. And I don't think that Cannon Zarro, unless some magic happens, I don't think that he's going to be mathematically eligible for the championship.
Certainly going to need a lot to go his way next week, that is for sure. So it may be just a 2-horse race here heading into the season finale at the dirt track of Charlotte next week. We hope you guys will be joining us for that. Loic Bernier is a 2-time winner here in the TNR Master Millwright Big Block Series with the victory here tonight at Weedsport. 2 wins in a row in his 3 starts so far this season. Anthony, next week going to be a good one in the finale. Hope that the folks join us and appreciate you joining me in the booth.
And thank you, and we can't wait to see what these drivers will do next week, or season finale. It's a championship season, because I think we've got 2 championship races to call this week, in quick succession. So championship season is in the air, and I cannot wait to see who can best the rest at Charlotte.
Absolutely, and that other championship you're talking about, it's going to be the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. That'll be on Saturday night when they'll be crowned a champion at the old track surface of Atlanta Motor Speedway. Hope you guys join us for that one. But next Tuesday night, the green flag will fly at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we get ready to crown ourselves a champion here in the TNR Master Millwright Big Block Series. Will it for the 3rd time be Bobby Trapper? Will James Boniface have something to say about it for his first championship crown? Gonna have to wait and see. For Anthony McCurry, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for joining us here tonight at Weedsport as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.